Through the month of December, when you look like internationally, between religious holidays, cultural holidays, and like special days of observance, there's over 40. There's not even 40 days in December, but there's 40 special occasions in December worldwide. That's a lot of great reasons to get together with your friends. It's a lot of great reasons to eat really good food. It's a lot of great reasons to want to rip your hair out. Today we're going to talk about how to not go there. So I don't know about you, but my family, we celebrate solstice and Christmas. And every year when Christmas is starting to creep up on us, I always have the same conversations with my friends, and a lot of them have grown to just loathe the holiday season because it's so full of work, it's so full of obligations and expectations. Actually, one of my friends refers to Christmas as the International Festival of Women's Work. And I think that's a darn shame. You know, I remember being a kid and, well, I think I was a teenager actually, and I remember the year that it became really clear to me that my mom hated Christmas. And I remember feeling really guilty because I realized that the only reason she did it was for me, and the only reason she was continuing to do it was for me, and I just felt bad. And when I got out on my own, I was like, I am not going to be one of those people who hates Christmas and goes through the motions anyway. This is my holiday too, and I will have some joy in it. So if you are one of those people who has already lost your joy, I'm hoping to give you some strategies to get it back. And if you're one of those people who is like barely hanging on to the joy, we're going to teach you how to keep it. And we're going to do that two ways. We're going to look at the scheduling, we're going to look at prioritizing, and this isn't something that requires like a different planner or a different calendar. This is a system you can use with the planner or the calendar that you already have. And we're also going to talk about some of the family dynamics, relationships, obligations, that kind of stuff that can kind of make the holiday less enjoyable by putting more obligations on you. And we're going to talk about some strategies to sort of level those out a little bit so that you can keep your joy, or maybe find your joy if it's already gone, in the holiday season. Now, as I was getting ready for this video, I was trying to figure out a way that I could take how my brain works and put it on paper because I don't find prepping for Christmas all that stressful, to be honest. It's just, I have a big list of stuff that I want to get done. Some of it gets done. Most of it probably gets done most years. And some things don't get done, and I'm okay with that. There's always next year, right? That's the great thing about holidays. They're annual. You've always got next year. But there are a couple of things that I really want you to know right from the get-go. Number one, you are allowed to set boundaries. Number two, just because you did it last year does not mean you have to do it this year. And number three, this is your holiday too. If you're the magic maker, if you're the one who pulls it all together, then make sure that you're pulling something together for yourself. All right, so let's get into it. This is Eisenhower's matrix. When I saw this online, I was like, oh my God, this is exactly how my brain works. This is how I can communicate to people how I prioritize things and how I look at things. The way it works is by taking your list of stuff to do and sorting it into 4 main categories. Typically, this is used to plan your day or your week or your month. I start planning my holiday season in September, so that's how I'm going to use it, and I've made a little bit of a tweak because, let's face it, the delete category is not as easy as we would like it to be. Okay, the first thing that I do is I need to brain dump. I need to just sit down with my notepad and just get everything out and onto paper, everything that I feel like I have to do, everything that I want to do, obligations, joys, things that I need other people to do for me, and things that aren't even important to get done, but I just really want to. Once I get all of that down on paper, it's time to sort it out. Now, I like to put everything on sticky notes because then I'm not having to write and rewrite things over and over again. I write it all out in my brain dump and then transfer it to stickies because in my brain dump, I just like to get it out and not have to like worry about fiddling with sticky notes. But then I do transfer everything to sticky notes because that allows me to sort things into their categories and then physically just pick them off and move them to my day timer or my calendar. First we have urgent and important, which is the do it category. So urgent and important are my holiday must-haves. They're things that I don't really want to negotiate on. If nothing else gets crossed off my list, I want these things to happen. Handmade gifts that I want to make, and I have no like store-bought alternative for them. Things that I need to purchase and mail or make and mail. They are things that I need to order and have shipped to me. Every year we give our parents and grandparents a photo album of our entire family for the year. And I know that on November, the second weekend in November, that service from where I order it always goes on sale for like 40% off. So I know that I need to have my photos uploaded and ready to go by that date if I want to get the sale, and it saves me like $100, so I make sure I do it. It's also things that are non-negotiable, like the kids' Christmas concerts or events or parties that we really want to go to. Now for the next category is the important but not urgent. So these are things that I would really like to do. They're crafts that I want to make. They're usually decor items that I would like to make, some activities that I'd like to get done. But at the end of the day, if they don't happen, it's not the end of the world. Non-essential makes that can easily be replaced by store-bought items if I don't have time. So like Christmas cards, you know, if I don't get around to making handmade ones, I can just go and buy some. It's not that big of a deal. The next category is urgent, but not important. And so by not important, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not important in the grand scheme of the holidays. It means it's not important for me to have to do it. It's maybe not even the best use of my time for me to do it, but it still has to be done. It still has to be done by a certain time. So these are things that maybe I get my partner to make or buy, or maybe things that I get the kids to do, gifts for the grandparents or whatever. And often it's like food items that I need people to bring for the big family meal. I don't know what it is about mashed potatoes on Christmas. I hate doing the mashed potatoes because they always need to be boiled and mashed and dealt with like at the time when I'm doing like pulling the whole meal together, and so I end up like resenting the potatoes. So I just get somebody else to bring them. It's also an expensive meal, so I get somebody else to bring the ham. We do the turkey, somebody else does the ham, somebody brings the potatoes. You know, usually it's somebody else to bring wine because I'm allergic to most of it and I'd rather people just bring what they know they're gonna want to drink. So things like that. They're important, they need to happen, but they're not important for me to do specifically. I can delegate those. So that's the delegate section. All right, now the non-urgent, non-important category. This is where I make a tweak for this, okay? Because often this is like the soul-sucking, mind-numbing, energy-draining, time-wasting, often fiscally irresponsible stuff that we feel obligated to do, but we don't really want to. And the way I've tweaked this category is instead of it just being deleted, it's deleted/compromise. Sometimes we can't get rid of all of these things, but we can definitely do a lot of stuff in terms of compromising and setting boundaries or ground rules around certain things that can absolutely make these things more bearable if we can't delete them altogether. And when we talk about this section more, we're going to get more into family dynamics and relationships and why we end up with all this stuff on our list that stresses us out. We're going to get all into that. All right, so let's talk about how we then take the things from the 4 categories and move them into our calendar. For the do it section, remember these are all the non-negotiables, the things that I feel have to get done for me. So I want them in my calendar first because I know that they will get done. Sometimes I'm planning things with other people, like, you know, we'll be doing holiday baking and I'll be doing that with other family. So we'll take a day or maybe 2 days and we'll be like, hey, this is the day we're doing this activity. Or this is the day that we're decorating gingerbread houses with the kids. Whatever that is, I'll schedule that on a date. Other things that I can kind of pick away at, but I'm gonna assign it to like a week. So in this week, I need to kind of pick away at that activity. All right, the planet category. So this was the urgent but not important category. Things I would like to have done, but doesn't necessarily mean that they will get done. I'm going to schedule this in my calendar the same way I did the do it category, but it's going to be further down the calendar. So things happen, right? Cars break down, people get sick, like stuff just gets in the way. And so you might end up having to shuffle some things down your calendar. If these things get shuffled right off the calendar, it's not going to be the end of the world. One year I decided I was going to make stockings for the entire family when we started having Christmas at our house. And so that was something like 17 stockings that I needed to make. And of course I needed to, you know, make it complicated, and everybody's this different fabric with just tons of different stuff. Now, we had this big event where everybody came over while the kids decorated their gingerbread houses. I had everybody pick out their own fabric and stuff. We traced out the stockings and cut them all out. That was a few years ago that I did that. So that year I sewed my eldest daughter's stocking, and that was it. All I did was I took all of those stockings that were already cut out but not sewn together. They had like little leather name tags that my husband made, and I folded them all together. I put them in a Rubbermaid bin and I put them away. The next year, I still had no time to make the stockings. I left them packed up. The year after that, I finally sewed all the stockings. It wasn't the end of the world. They eventually got done and I enjoyed the process. So the planet category, be okay with the things in that category maybe not getting done if it means that you're going to enjoy yourself doing it down the road. Okay, the delegate it category. This one is hard for people to do. It can be hard to delegate. Sometimes because people aren't really interested in being delegated to. I mean, you do have to ask people if it's okay, you know, will you please do this for me? And sometimes they'll say no. When you've asked somebody to do something for you and they've agreed to do it, but maybe their follow-up is, you know, yeah, sure, I'll do that for you. But I've got a lot going on. I'm really forgetful. You just got to remind me. Everybody's got a lot going on. Everybody can be forgetful if something's not important enough to them. So what them saying that to you does is it leaves the emotional load of getting that thing done on your shoulders. Even though they are taking the time and physically doing the task, it's somehow still your responsibility that it's getting done because it's your job to remind them. That's not going to take any stress off of you. It might save you a few minutes or maybe a few hours, depending on what the task is, but it's not going to save you any stress. So I encourage you, if you are met with that, yes, I'll do it, but you got to remind me, encourage them to mark it on their calendar. Encourage them right then and there to pull out their phone and put a reminder in their phone. And just let them know you've got a lot going on too, and part of the delegating is to not have to worry about it anymore. And that's really the last time you should ever have to think about that task. The other part about delegating is letting go. Know that when you delegate a task to somebody else, they're not going to do it the way that you did it. And it doesn't mean that they're going to do it better or worse. It's just not going to be the way that you would have done it. And you just need to be okay with that. Just step out of their way, let them do what they've said that they're going to do, and you might be offering them their opportunity to shine. And who doesn't love that? Okay, now the delete it / compromise section. Like all the other ones, is very different for everybody, but I feel like they have a lot of similar characteristics. They are often events you don't want to go to, people you don't want to associate with, money you don't want to or cannot spend, or things that you've been like guilt tripped or in other ways manipulated into performing. This is where in the conversation, whenever I advocate for my friends to set boundaries or new rules or new traditions that can make things easier for themselves, I always hear, yeah, but my mom expects me to do this. Yeah, but my kids expect me to do this. Yeah, but I get guilt tripped into this, or I have an obligation to do that. Okay, let's have some real talk about this because it's a big deal and it's really the section that makes people loathe the holidays and just, it sucks all the joy out. So what's the point? Compromise is a big umbrella term for a lot of different things that you can do. So one is set boundaries. When my husband and I got together, I set the boundary of, because both of our parents were divorced, that when it came to the holidays, I was only going to one house a day. I love you just as much on Christmas Eve as I do on Boxing Day. Like, I'm not going from house to house to house, cutting visits short, stopping in the middle of a conversation because, oh, I gotta go somewhere. It sucks the joy out of it. So I wasn't prepared to do that. Other boundaries can be things like, okay, I'll go to that party that I don't really want to go to, but I'm only staying for 2 hours. Or, okay, I'll take part in that gift exchange, but only if there's a dollar limit. I remember the year that I suggested to my husband and his sister and my sister that our generation just didn't exchange gifts. And honestly, everybody was like, oh, thank God you said that. Like, I'm so grateful. So you never know when somebody else might be really grateful for you to suggest a compromise. Or let's say that your house is the only house that's large enough to have the big family gathering at, but maybe you work like 12-hour shifts the 4 days right before the gathering. So when are you going to have time to do everything? Well, this is where the compromise comes in. Okay, fine. We can have this gathering at my house, but because I don't have a lot of time, it needs to be a potluck. And I need 1 or 2 volunteers to come the day of early on and help me tidy up my house and decorate and set up. Sometimes being around difficult people is the struggle too, right? So if you have to go to a gathering and there's somebody there that you know, like your politics is just super different, or maybe there's social beliefs that you have that are super different, and maybe they just decide that family events are the time to take you to task over those, find an ally. If you feel like you can't not go to that event because maybe like all the other people you really miss and you want to hang out with, it's just this one rotten apple that's spoiling the bunch, I encourage you to find an ally. Find somebody that you can say, look, if you see them corner me, if you see them badgering me or belittling me, can you please rescue me? Can you ask me to do something in the kitchen? Can you come and interrupt the conversation? Like, I don't need to be babysat all day, but if you see this, can you just like throw me a life preserver? And finally, when all of those compromises fail, just delete it. Sometimes it's just what you have to do. No, sorry, I'm not going. No, sorry, I'm not making that dish. No, sorry, I'm not donating that handmade craft. Like, you just gotta say no. Whatever path you take for these, whether it be compromise, changing your behavior, setting boundaries, or deleting it entirely, the one thing that you really need to do is communicate about it. Because if you change your behavior or your expectations, or you change something that means other people need to shift their expectations and you don't let them know ahead of time, you are leaving them to their own devices and their own imagination to figure out why you've changed your behavior. And that, I can guarantee, is almost always more dramatic than whatever the truth is. So let people know. Whatever it is, it could be a watered down version of the truth, but please avoid giving some kind of excuse like you're sick or you're busy or whatever, because that just means you're making that next year's problem to have to deal with again. Set your boundaries, let people know, and let that be the end of it. Now, the last thing I want you to do once you've moved your do it and plan it categories, you've delegated all the things that you need to delegate, and you have taken on your delete compromise pile and communicated about that, the last thing you need to do is set end dates. Now, notice I'm not saying completion dates, okay? We talked about not getting everything done. This is how we sort this out. I have last day to do baking, last day to do sewing, last day to do crafting, marked in my calendar. And whatever isn't done up until that day is not going to get done that year. And the whole purpose of this is so that you have time to just relax, enjoy your family. You're not baking or sewing or crafting until 3 a.m, hating every minute of it, and then like resenting the people who you're doing it for. So set those last dates and really look at how much time do I want before my holiday to be able to sit back and say, I'm done. I'm ready. And that doesn't mean being done and being ready doesn't mean you've got it all done. It means you're done. And there you have it. That's how I organize my holiday season. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that these strategies and tactics will help you hold on to the joy of the season, whatever your holiday season may be, or maybe even bring a little bit of joy back into it by not having you stressed out about the holiday. Until next time, do all the things, like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next week.